Today we're diving back into the Epstein files, and we're looking at how Jeffrey Epstein single-handedly infiltrated our entertainment space and became a part of yours and my living room. This is a great breakdown on how he turned some of your favorite celebrities to actually be something pretty evil. Grab your beverage, now let's dive in.
How would you feel if I told you that the people behind the shows and movies you love so dearly might have served part in the most extensive human trafficking operation the world has ever seen? The very same actors who make you feel, the directors whose stories you admire, and the producers who bring it all to you. Because in 2019, something sinister was uncovered. Millions of documents, emails, text messages, flight logs, and the common theme amongst it all? Influence. I'm sure it's no surprise that the people who write, produce, and act in the media that billions of people around the world consume garner a certain amount of influence. And with influence comes power. Combine that with depraved fantasies and a total disregard for the well-being of others, and you might find yourself being approached by certain individuals.
Now, you have to think about this. These celebrities, they've reached a success level in life that most of us have never been able to reach. I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about the fame that comes along with it. It's something that we just can't completely understand because it's not something that we all completely feel, but it seems to drive them towards some really strange fantasies and desires that the common man doesn't experience.
Hey guys, my name is Mr. Pilled, and today I'm going to be conspiracy maxing and breaking down Jeffrey Epstein and his connections to Hollywood. In March of 2005, in Palm Beach, Florida, police officially began investigating reports of sexual misconduct with minors. The reports read mostly the same. These young girls were paid for massages, then assaulted afterwards. Every one of those instances led back to a man named Jeffrey Epstein. By 2006, Jeffrey Epstein would be arrested, and by 2008, charged with soliciting prostitution from someone under the age of 18. Time would pass, but old habits die hard, because in 2019, he would end up arrested again, this time on counts of human trafficking. Although justice would never see the light of day, because later that year, Epstein was found dead, hanging in his cell. Little did everyone know that these reports, arrest, and then suicide would open up a can of worms that would contain dirt from not just Jeffrey Epstein's front lawn. As the FBI began to unravel Epstein's operation, they came to find that not only was he potentially the ringleader behind some kind of international child trafficking ring, but that he was also an incredibly well-connected and powerful person.
Now, we need to remember a few things. First of all, he allegedly died in his jail cell. Whether that actually happened or not, we're not 100% sure. He may still be alive, and that could have been someone else that took the place, or he could have been unalived by someone else. It's very hard to believe that he was able to take his own life, especially under the circumstances that were shared with us. Also, we're talking about well-connected now. Yeah, the guy was rich, the guy helped others with money, he made some really big connections, and essentially was connected to everyone that was powerful.
Jeffrey knew how to create access to people. He maintained ties with politicians, world leaders, royalty, business tycoons, scientists, academics, and just to bring this full circle, some pretty big names in Hollywood. But to have any kind of human trafficking ring, first you need humans to traffic. For Epstein, his connections to the modeling industry would have that covered. See, in the modeling industry, young women with dreams of fame and glamour are often left at the behest of modeling scouts who hold all the power to make or break their career. This leaves those young women vulnerable and likely eager to submit to the whims of those individuals, and it creates an environment of extortion and abuse, which someone like Jean-Luc Brunel would often take advantage of. FBI documents from 2019 revealed to the public that there were 9 people listed as official co-conspirators to Epstein and his operation.
Yeah, because Epstein wasn't out here meeting these models himself and bringing them into his network. He had these arms, the arms of the octopus that were out there bringing in all of these young girls that were then going to become part of his personal system and the system that would be shared amongst many of those elites.
Many of them still remain redacted, but Jean-Luc Brunel was one of those individuals. A model scout and founder of Next Model Management Corporation, Mr. Brunel saw plenty of success during his time as a scout, bringing now famous actresses such as Sharon Stone and Mia Jovovich to the limelight. Little side note, Jean-Luc had a co-founder to NMM. It was a woman named Faith Kate, who's mentioned in the files 5,200 times, which is a lot, as you'll see as I go down the list. And she conveniently chose to very hastily retire.
Now, 5,200 times means within the emails, which are the Epstein files, 5,200 times her name was stated. There are some people that's names are within the files that they were just being spoken of, not being spoken with. So having your name in the Epstein files doesn't essentially mean that you did anything wrong. It means that your name was there for whatever that reason may be. But when you see 5,200 times, a lot of time, I could say 99.9% of the time, it's because something was going on around you and you were a part of those conversations.
Via a poorly worded email as soon as the Epstein files were released last year, which I find weird. But back to it. Jean-Luc had very close ties to Jeffrey Epstein. See, Epstein funded Jean-Luc's US-based company, MC2 Model Management, which leads me to believe that he had a reason for doing so. Perhaps a local recruitment hub for Epstein. But Jean-Luc is also listed as a passenger in Epstein's flight logs 25 times. And in 2008, during Jeffrey's 13-month prison sentence, he visited Epstein in prison on at least 70 different occasions.
All right, so the 70 times visiting in jail is actually nuts. That's every few days of being imprisoned, he was visited. It's probably because business was still happening while Jeffrey Epstein was in prison. Mind you, when he was in prison, he actually didn't have to spend the majority of his time in prison. He would spend most of his days at his house conducting business and have to essentially just sleep like a dormitory in the prison, except for Sundays. He would be there on Sundays. In addition to this, the Lolita Express was the plane which he traveled on with Jeffrey Epstein 20 times or whatever they said. That plane has had many people fly in it that were up to many not good things. It had a large bed in the back of the plane and was often filled with young, attractive women. You could guess what most likely happened on that plane.
They were in some pretty dirty stuff together. As described by Jean-Luc himself in this email, still in Costa Rica, the guy that owes us the money is making excuses and takes me around without anything done. While he was driving me yesterday, we got attacked and robbed by two guys with revolvers. I wonder if it was not a setup to make me quit. At least wasn't hurt. But it is a strange feeling to have a gun on your face. When they left, they shot the tire. Not a boring life. In 2011, one of the more outspoken Epstein accusers, Virginia Giuffre, is on record testifying that Jean-Luc Brunel was one of the men that Jeffrey Epstein directed her to have sex with.
By the way, I did an interview with Giuffre. She's no longer with us. She's passed. But her entire life was filled with abuse from both Epstein. Then when she was finally able to escape his grasp, she married into a toxic relationship where the continued. You should check out that interview. It's on a playlist on the main page of the channel.
According to FBI documents, she also claimed that Jean-Luc found and sent 12-year-old girls from France to Jeffrey as a surprise birthday gift. All of this ruckus would prompt French authorities to start their own investigation, where they found credible allegations that Brunel drugged and raped a minor in the 1990s. The investigation brought forward two French complainants who stated that Jean-Luc Brunel acted as a recruiter for Epstein, seeking out disenfranchised and disadvantaged young women to send to him. In 2021, Jean-Luc was officially under investigation and in prison. There were allegedly even negotiations in the works to testify against Epstein. Back in 2016, even Jeffrey was worried that Jean-Luc would spill the beans on the operation, saying, he said, illegible, got Jean-Luc full immunity, and he asked for $3 million so that Jean-Luc would not go in. So I think it's likely he would have cooperated, but conveniently, he'd never make it long enough to give anyone any answers. A year later, in 2022, he was found dead, hanging in his cell. Another loose end tied up, so it seems.
But was it really him? I mean, this is the huge question. There was never any factual stamps of approval saying, yes, that was. Honestly, I think that we need to exhume and figure out if that was actually really him or if he's still alive.
Rabbit hole goes much deeper. Here in this email found in the files, a redacted individual asks if Eve K is going to bring Leonardo DiCaprio, who I'll touch on soon, to what seems to be some gathering or event. At first, I thought this Yveske could be a spelling error, but after looking it up, I discovered a Dutch model by the name of Yveske Sturm. After some digging, I also found a Dutch article from 2009 where she even admits she had a flirtatious run-in with Leo, confirming at the very least that they had met each other. Now, Yveske is certainly not a common name. So the next step was looking her up in the files, which revealed a very concerning 1,900 results from intimate and damning texts between her and Epstein saying that she owes him 2 girls, and her replying that she'll make it up to him in Paris, and several emails discussing or setting up meetings between Jeffrey and Yveske. It's undeniable that she was much more involved in this circle than she claims. According to this article, she's quoted saying, "With the knowledge I have now, I see that my earlier involvement was a serious misjudgment."
By the way, there are probably multiple hundreds of people that were a part of this network. And for the next few years, we're going to be going through files. We're going to be digging deeper into the internet's dark spaces and finding more people that had ties to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not just talking about celebrities. I'm not just talking about politicians. I'm talking about people like Yveske as well, or random people that may not even be anyone of note that have been a part of this network.
At the time, I was naive and did not have a full picture of who Epstein really was or the harm he caused, which on the surface might seem reasonable enough, but the problem with this statement is that all of their correspondence and their meetings took place long after Jeffrey Epstein was already convicted of sexual misconduct with a minor. So I find it hard to believe that she and everyone else who was close with him didn't know about his hobbies. Circling back to Leo, compared to many on the list, he's not mentioned an egregious amount of times in the files, 48 times, and none of his appearances in the files contain direct correspondence either. However, it seems Jeff liked to keep tabs on him and his endeavors. Here's an email that was sent to Epstein containing a link to an article that highlights the success of a collaborative charity art auction that Leonardo hosted alongside Christie's auction house in New York. The auction yielded $33 million in art sales, with most of it going to wildlife preservation of various sorts. 33 artists donated their works to support the cause, and out of those 33, I found 26 of them in the Jeffrey Epstein files. So,
wow.
Here's a shot in the dark. The email about Yveske bringing Leo to some kind of gathering with Epstein was sent May 6th, 2013, which was 5 days prior to DiCaprio's auction. Jeffrey Epstein was very, very involved in the art scene and likely had connections with notable artists. Leonardo meets with Epstein at this gathering and asks him a favor. Jeffrey then reaches out to those 26 artists to donate works to the auction event. Then the article gets sent 6 days later to Jeffrey as a confirmation of the auction's success, at the hand of Epstein, of course. Now, that's nothing but loose speculation. However, there's another piece of evidence that would support the idea that Leonardo went to Jeffrey for favors. Here's an email sent to Peter Mandelson, the former European Commissioner of Trade, asking if he knows anyone not from the United States that wants an endorsement from Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, why else would Epstein be so eager to help Leonardo DiCaprio make some extra money if he hadn't come to him for favors first?
Yeah, there definitely seems to be some type of exchange of some type of services between DiCaprio and Epstein. It's funny because Leonardo DiCaprio is a name that we all know was involved in things, but we can't actually pin to what he was involved in. He's one of the more ghostly or mysterious ones out of the entire bunch.
And what was Jeff asking for in return? Because I can't imagine he was just doing this simply from the goodness of his own heart. He clearly would have wanted something.
No, he has
from
no goodness
Leonardo
in his heart.
DiCaprio. There's some even more peculiar connections with Leo, though, that go beyond the files. And for that, I'd like to refer you guys to my good friend Chase.
How's it going, guys? Funny seeing you over here. Something that I've become very familiar with over these past few months, begrudgingly so, is the Clintons' involvement in the aftermath of the 2010 magnitude 7 earthquake that hit Haiti. For anyone who's in the dark about what I'm referring to, after the earthquake hit, there was a lot of relief being provided to Haiti, primarily through non-profit organizations, like the Clinton Foundation. A woman named Laura Silsby and 9 other missionaries were in Haiti working for an organization called New Life Children's Refuge, which was receiving a lot of money and resources from the Clinton Foundation. Foundation. These missionaries were caught trying to smuggle 33 non-orphaned children across the Haitian border illegally without anyone's permission into the Dominican Republic. Laura Silsby said that she got these children from an orphanage in the area known in English as Friends of the Orphans, which is also funded by the Clinton Foundation. It's not funny, but it's so absurd that you have to laugh at it almost. I'm sure the Clintons just didn't know, right? Like, they didn't know that the people they were funding, they were funding both sides of it too. Anyway, when they were caught by Haitian authorities, Bill Clinton would be the one to step in and get all of their charges dismissed except for Laura Silsby, who ended up serving only 6 months as the ringleader behind this whole operation. The Haitian authorities also found out after they detained these missionaries that none of these kids they were rehoming were even orphaned. So not only do you have to ask why she was taking these kids out of the country illegally, but you also have to ask, why were these kids even being held in this orphanage to begin with? Right, this Clinton-funded orphanage in Haiti.
Reminds me a little bit of Oprah Winfrey's school for young girls as well. Very similar context between the two. Underprivileged people that don't have homes, and then a lot of controversy going along with that same organization. I wonder if this has been a proven, repeatable strategy.
These kids aren't orphans, and thanks to Bubba stepping in, all of these missionaries got off with no jail time except for Laura Silsby, who served 6 months. If these optics weren't bad enough already, it becomes even stranger when you learn that Jeffrey Epstein once, in a 2007 letter that he wrote, claimed to have co-founded the Clinton Foundation. And Epstein's orgy island, Little St. James, sits just off the coast of the Dominican Republic, the country where these children were being taken into. Now get this. According to the Clinton Foundation themselves, an actor named Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe you've heard of him, he's been in a couple movies, donated $1 million out of his own pocket to the Clinton-Bush Haiti Fund in the immediate aftermath of the earthquake. What a nice guy, what a wonderful thing to do. Leonardo DiCaprio also appears mentioned in the Epstein files in an email sent to Epstein from Peter Mandelson. Keep that name in mind. The email was written less than a year prior to the Haitian earthquake, and it reads, "Can you think of anyone in India, China, Japan, etc. that might want the endorsement of Leonardo DiCaprio? Russia, etc., cars, etc. He's looking for some non-US products to endorse to make some money." So Leo needed a quick check in 2009, and then in 2010, he's donating $1 million out of his own pocket to an organization that Epstein himself claimed to have co-founded.
You have to wonder, any time now, after all of this has come to light, that I hear of massive donations being made by people that have tons of money, celebrities, people in politics, you really have to wonder, what's behind that? Because typically in the past you think, okay, they're doing donations. Yes, they're kind, but they're also looking for some massive tax write-offs. But as of late, it takes a much darker turn, and I have to wonder, is there something even deeper behind it? Besides the goodwill, besides the tax write-offs, is there something that they're looking to get out of it that's a lot darker?
In order to help orphaned children. This is the same guy who has never dated a woman over the age of 25, which is a little bit unusual, especially for a man in his 50s. This is far from DiCaprio's only contribution, and over the years he's contributed millions of his own dollars and has raised countless more through fundraisers. In 2012, DiCaprio and George Clooney headlined a fundraiser with the Kardashians to raise $5 million for Sean Penn's Haitian Relief Organization. Jeffrey Epstein was sent an email notifying him of the event the day prior. This email from 2010 can also be found in the inbox of Jeffrey Epstein, sent to him again by Peter Mandelson. He asks Epstein, "Can I have a muse same as George Clooney?" Peter Mandelson is the former European Commissioner for Trade, which is right up Epstein's alley for rich and powerful people to associate with, right? Mandelson stepped down from this position after being criminally implicated in the Epstein files before later being arrested for his involvement. This email from Mandelson could be taken as an implication that George Clooney was gifted a muse from Epstein's harem. Whether that implication is true is for you to decide.
George Clooney, that's a brand new name for me and my research in the files.
But what I can tell you is that this isn't the only allegation that George Clooney is closely tied into Epstein and his associates. Virginia Guffrey, Epstein's most public and outspoken victim, claimed that Ghislaine Maxwell was boasting about having an affair with Clooney in the bathroom at a public event. Virginia is quoted as saying, Once she came back, giddy as a schoolgirl with an explosion of news. With all the buildup and excitement in her voice, you'd think she was the next crown princess. But she had given George Clooney a BJ in the bathroom at some random event. She never let that one down. Now, if this is true, it's not necessarily illegal.
What a thing to be proud of. As an adult woman, to come back and be so proud of yourself for that.
But it does raise some major red flags. After all, they say, you are who you surround yourself with. George Clooney's name can also be found appearing next to redacted names in the Epstein files several times, and as we all know, the Trump administration is hiding the names of Epstein's clientele and co-conspirators. So it does make you wonder, what's his name doing there? But this email is perhaps the most damning one that George Clooney's name appears in. The subject is Clooney in Copenhagen, sent to Jeffrey from a redacted name. The email contains a JPEG photograph that's unavailable and simply reads, "Off to nice, still no reply from redacted, kiss." But Epstein replies to this email writing, "Now I know that Copenhagen has interesting girls. Ask redacted if you should see agencies on his behalf." We can infer here that the image shows George Clooney in Copenhagen surrounded by one, if not multiple, interesting girls. What you and I would define as an interesting girl is probably a lot different than what Jeffrey Epstein would call an interesting girl. So in 2009, Jeffrey Epstein reaches out to the European Commissioner for Trade, Peter Mandelson, on DiCaprio's behalf because Leo's looking to make some money. In 2010, Leonardo DiCaprio donates $1 million to the Haitian Relief Fund, headed by the Clinton Foundation, which Epstein himself says that he co-founded. Then the relief that's provided to Haiti through Clinton Foundation funds is caught smuggling 33 non-orphan children across the border in the direction of Epstein's island. And then Peter Mandelson steps down from his position and is later arrested in London after his incriminating ties to Epstein became public. And yet no arrests here. Both Clooney and DiCaprio are mentioned several times in the files despite not appearing in the emails themselves. But keep in mind, only about half of the files have even been released, and we're probably not getting any more.
He just stated that we're probably not getting any more. I hope that he is wrong. There's 3.5 million files that we haven't seen yet. It's been months. Who knows if we're going to see them or not. The issue is, even the ones that we did see were so heavily redacted and so heavily censored that we have to wonder what was actually being said in so many of them and who were the people that did wrong. Because the files and the redactions were protecting the criminals, not protecting the victims.
We're missing about 3 million files, including a really big chunk around 2001 for some reason. I don't think it's a reach to say that these people have more knowledge of what was going on behind the scenes than they're letting on.
One of the individuals arranging meetings between Eve K. Sturm and Epstein was a pretty mysterious woman named Leslie Groff. She's officially listed in that 2019 document as a co-conspirator, and from what I can gather, she's a very long-time personal assistant to Jeffrey. But there's not really much personal information on her that I could find. She's listed in the files a staggering 160,000 times, just to give you an idea on how involved she was in this operation. The reason I'm bringing her up is because she served as a notable focal point in all of this. She would arrange meetings and contact between Epstein and other individuals that I have in this video. Those individuals being Bill Cosby, Woody Allen, and Peggy Segal. All three very notable figures in Hollywood and the entertainment industry. Now, as for hearing Bill Cosby's name, I'd be hard-pressed to think that this is shocking to you, given Bill's recent trouble with the law and the nature of his crimes. But Leslie is on record facilitating meetings between Jeffrey and Bill via email. Now, for those of you who live under a rock, Bill Cosby was famous for being America's dad, having an extremely classic and clean-cut image that made the allegations of drugging and raping young women all the more shocking. These allegations went back as far as December of 1965. And there were plenty of them. They did eventually catch up with him though, and in April of 2018, he was found guilty of aggravated indecent assault and sentenced to 10 years in prison. There's no direct communication between Bill and Epstein that I could find. He's only mentioned 109 times in the files. There are quite a few emails though that contain articles with updates on Bill's situation and discussions where Jeffrey and Woody Allen compare Bill's situation to that of their own. Woody Allen is a well-accomplished filmmaker. Some of his works are as follows: Annie Hall, Manhattan, Hannah and Her Sisters, and Midnight in Paris. His success in Hollywood has earned him Academy Awards, Golden Globe Awards, and BAFTA Awards.
I have to say, none of those movies that they just shared are ones that I was huge fans of. Were you a Woody Allen fan and a fan of his movies? And if you were, are you still in support of them today? Just curious.
So the guy has a big presence in the industry. Woody is in the files 7,400 times, with much of it being direct communication via email and text message.
Yes.
Here are some of his more egregious mentions. In this email, a redacted individual asks where Epstein is, to which he replies saying, he's with Woody Allen in Paris. The redacted individual then asks him for Le convention, and Epstein responds with, I think is the plural. In this one, Woody reaches out to Epstein saying, Jeffrey, how are you? I hear from Eva that your incarceration period is now about over. What a great relief for you. He also brings up his 12-year-old daughter, her passion for playing the flute, and how Jeffrey was very involved there. It's a bit strange to express relief over your friend being released from prison over child sex crimes, and in the same breath, update them on the interest and the status of your 12-year-old daughter.
I wondered, that 12-year-old daughter playing the flute, Jeffrey Epstein had a lot of connections in the music industry and all of that. I wonder if he got her help in some way. I would find it very hard to believe that he would have done things to his friend's younger daughter. You never know. But yeah, it's still strange to have those two things connected.
That correspondence completely debunks Woody Allen's own words on his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, though, because in an interview with The Times, Woody claims he met Epstein after a publicist, someone who we'll cover next, invited him and his wife, formerly his adopted daughter, by the way, to a dinner with Jeffrey Epstein after his release from prison. Woody is quoted saying, there were about 20 people there, and we knew a lot of them from show business. Although he refused to say who, one of the guests that was there, Katie Couric, came out and confirmed that Prince Andrew, Charlie Rose, George Stephanopoulos, and Chelsea Handler were a few of the attendees.
Interesting to see some of those names. And yes, you did hear that right. Woody Allen ended up marrying his adopted daughter.
There are also multiple images of them in public together, confirming that they were very close. Literally, Woody Allen and Jeffrey Epstein shared the same residence. They lived in the same New York apartment complex. Setting the Epstein connections aside, though, he's already known for being a strange and gross guy.
Yeah.
He's famous for marrying his adopted daughter, which is partially true. Woody married his ex-wife Mia Farrow's adopted daughter, Soon-Yi Preven, which meant at one point legally that was indeed his daughter. The guy was already just a straight weirdo, because yes, that is very weird. Soon-Yi isn't just an innocent bystander, though. She was arguably just as actively involved with Jeffrey Epstein as Woody Allen was. She has 7,200 mentions in the files. Here she is discussing Anthony Weiner's situation with Epstein, saying, I hate women who take advantage of guys, and she is definitely one of them. She knew exactly what she was doing and how vulnerable Weiner was, and she reeled him in like a fish to bait. Mind you, she's talking about a 15-year-old girl here, who Anthony Weiner, former congressman, was caught s***ing. Crazy to blame the 15-year-old child, not the grown man who's a sitting U.S. congressman. Anyways, Epstein replies saying he hasn't had sex in a year. What is he supposed to do? He can't have a girlfriend, can't have a hooker, so hey, thought he was safe.
Those are actually crazy messages being sent back and forth. And on that topic, our government is filled with people that were in the files, and our government is filled with people that do these types of things. Whether you're right, left, whoever you believe in, it doesn't matter, because there are people from all parties that are involved in the files and that do these types of crimes. Most of them, though, it just gets swept under the rug.
This perfectly highlights how twisted Epstein's sense of morality was. But who had access to all these celebrities that Epstein was talking to and going to dinner with? Who was inviting them to these dinners? Someone clearly deeply rooted in the entertainment industry. That person was Peggy Segal, and Peggy Segal is a renowned film publicist, someone who essentially shapes the public image of actors, movies, and studios that make them. Her company, the Peggy Segal Company, was listed in 2018 as one of the top 12 most successful media marketing firms of that year. And Peggy herself is in the files 7,300 times. Her relationship with Epstein was very close. There's a lot of direct correspondence between the two. Here, she emails him in reference to a trip to Africa, expressing gratitude towards Jeffrey, giving her another life experience. In the same email, she offers to bring back a little baby for him, or two, and asks, boys or girls?
We were talking about this in a previous video I put out a few months back. She seemed very involved with jokingly getting young children for Epstein.
Chilling, given the context. In this one, she talks about Tina Brown in 2011. She asks how Epstein can neutralize her. Tina Brown is a journalist who, in the 2010s, ran the Daily Beast, a website which around this time published the very first national series on Jeffrey Epstein, highlighting his sweetheart deal, the one that he received over his sex crimes. Obviously, it didn't break through, it didn't get very big, but in this video, Tina recounts a chilling moment where, after publishing the series, Epstein confronted her by surprise, in person. Peggy served as an access point for Jeffrey, regularly providing opportunities for networking, like in this email, where she suggests that he meets with Paul McCartney of the Beatles. She would also help discredit those who threatened his operation, or the people in it. Here she is asking for Epstein to reword and correct the grammar of a message that he sent that claimed one of Prince Andrew's accusers was a liar and a fraud, so that she could send to Ariana Huffington, the founder of the Huffington Post. Their relationship certainly was not all business, though. Peggy herself labeled their relationship as platonically affectionate. She would seemingly email him to vent and spew gossip, which gives us a little insight into how much she's always known about the lives of her colleagues behind the curtains.
And it always seemed to me like she wanted some extra attention from Epstein.
In this example, she rants about how Jeffrey is the victim of a witch hunt, but then references Harvey Weinstein and Kevin Spacey. She says, some of the men are truly evil. Harvey, Kevin, rough sex with young boys. Then goes on to express how upset she is with talk show host and journalist Charlie Rose for taking advantage of young girls in a similar fashion to Harvey. Luring young girls into his Sherry, Netherlands apartment to Bellport House feels like Harvey and the Peninsula Hotel.
It seems strange that she's talking to Epstein about these things, who's doing very, very similar things himself, as if she doesn't know.
Mind you, she's not upset with the itself. She's upset because of how cultured Charlie is. She also asks when they're going to out David Geffen, Barry Diller, and Calvin Klein. David Geffen being the co-founder of DreamWorks, Barry Diller being the founder of Fox, and Calvin Klein being the underwear guy. So what have they been doing for Peggy to ask when they'll be outed? By her own word, she was unaware of Epstein's extracurricular activities, but you're really gonna sit here and tell me that you knew about all of these other powerful people's dirty laundry, but not the one that you were closest to? What did she know then? This email tells me that maybe she's not being entirely honest. How have you been? What's up with the Caribbean island? Staff still sleeping in the tunnels? Retrieved all the furniture out of the ocean? Did you take photos? What the hell does all of this mean? She has to be talking about Little St. James, because Little St. James is located in the Caribbean. But there are tunnels? Why would there be tunnels on Little St. James? Why is the staff sleeping in them? Furniture in the ocean? Why is there furniture in the ocean? Sounds like a bad storm hit Little St. James.
That's what I was thinking.
But I looked it up, and the weather in January of 2018, when this was sent, no notable storms hit the Caribbean until July. So what could the context here possibly be? Unfortunately, as ominous as all of this is, without context, there's no way to really confirm anything beyond a shadow of a doubt. They do some really weird things with the files, specifically with the redactions, like they'll redact a name in the to or from section just to leave the person's signature unredacted. This happens with Peggy too, where her name is redacted, but she signs the message with "Miss you, Peg." She also mentions to Jeffrey that she'll be going to dinner with Alec Baldwin, which prompted me to check him out. Alec has 74 mentions in the files.
That's not a lot.
There being some concern expressed by Jeffrey and other individuals over tweets of his. There's also talk of potentially inviting him to dinner with Catherine Keating, daughter of the former Prime Minister of Australia, Paul Keating, writing to Epstein, "What about Alec Baldwin? I hear he is going to run for office."
See, right there, it's speaking of Alec Baldwin. It was not direct communication with Alec Baldwin, at least as of so far. And this is how someone's name can be in the files without them actually communicating via the files.
Seems like if he wasn't already a part of the team, they were looking to put him on the roster. Digging a little deeper, I found a now defunct Gawker article that detailed Jeffrey Epstein's little black book. It's a book of names, addresses, and forms of contact info. Well, Alec Baldwin happened to be in it, but he wasn't the only one, of course. Some of the more notable celebrities in the book are as follows: Courtney Love, Chris Tucker, Minnie Driver, Morgan Fairchild, Dustin Hoffman, Mick Jagger, and Michael Jackson. Now, that last one probably caught your eye, just like it did mine, but don't worry. Michael Jackson here is a kitchen designer. The others, however, aren't as easy to write off, specifically a name that shows up on page 82, Les Wexner. Yes. Leslie Herbert Wexner is a billionaire business mogul known for owning huge retail brands like Victoria's Secret.
Many people believe that without Wexner, Epstein would have never been able to become as powerful as he was, because Wexner was one of the initial and largest funders of everything that Epstein did. And apparently Epstein himself was in charge of the finances of Wexner, apparently putting him in good financial position for tax reasons. So those two together, modeling agency, basically owning every store that was inside of the malls, being able to have Epstein have connections with the young girls that were a part of that system, really put Epstein on the map for the disgusting person that he actually is.
But also for being the man that gave Jeffrey Epstein his wealth and his power.
Here it is.
He had met Epstein in the 80s through a mutual friend, and they apparently hit it off so well that shortly after, Wexner would take on Jeffrey Epstein as his financial advisor. Surely you'd entrust a random unqualified college dropout who you just met with your millions, eventually billions of dollars, right? Well, Epstein ended up doing so well that in 1991, Les Wexner granted him power of attorney, giving him full power and authority to do and perform every act necessary. This meant that Epstein now had total authority over Les Wexner's legal and financial matters. Wexner seemingly handed over generational wealth and success to Jeffrey Epstein on a silver platter, but that begs the question, why? What did Leslie Wexner get out of this relationship with Epstein? Unfortunately, don't bother turning to Les Wexner himself for any information, because he leaves that question unanswered. Wexner himself claims that over all of these years, Jeffrey simply took advantage of him and misappropriated hundreds of millions of dollars. Now, I just can't wrap my head around how you go years not knowing that millions of your dollars are being misappropriated. He also states that he cut ties back in 2007 following Epstein's charges, which is not true at all. This is him emailing Jeffrey in 2008, 1 year after Wexner claimed he cut ties. And what is he saying in this email? All I can say is, I feel sorry. You violated your own #1 rule. Always be careful. That sounds like he knew exactly what was going on.
Yes,
there was a recent deposition held for Les Wexner regarding the Epstein files, and I want you to take a look at what his lawyer says to him.
Work for me or Jeffrey. It was just regularly done.
Answer the question. 5 words, okay? Answer the question.
Okay.
I don't think it's far-fetched to say that both Epstein and Wexner had a very, very mutual interest in protecting each other's secrets. I also don't think it's far-fetched to say that once Jeffrey was compromised, if there were anyone that would have benefited the most from his death, it would have been Les. Here's a draft email that was never sent, where Epstein seems concerned, almost desperate, in the face of being exposed to the world. I am truly sorry to hear that you have been the target of an extortion attempt by the same girl that has tried to extort Ehud Barak, Alan Dershowitz, and Prince Andrew. He goes on. I have never once,
interesting names,
not once, done anything but protect your interests. I owe a great debt to you, as frankly, you owe to me. I was not surprised by your reticence to sit with me when my bad judgment with women became a cause célèbre. Abigail and I sat. She asked many questions. She made many unfair, aggressive, and false accusations, none of which could have been fully answered without violating a confidence with you. Many of which I did not answer, some that I did. You and I had gang stuff for over 15 years. A great deal of it that she was unaware of. I had no intention of divulging any confidence of ours, no matter what accusations she made. I didn't argue with her, threaten her, or you, or in any way did not behave as I had always. Putting your interests first, I always told you I would never, under any circumstances, give it up or put you in harm's way, no matter who, what, or when. Finally ending the email with, we don't know what we don't know. The big issue with the Epstein files and all of the people involved is the blatant lack of deeper context. If you haven't yet, I do encourage you at the very least to explore the files a little bit yourself. You'll notice that it seems strategic, the way certain individuals, messages, and pieces of context are redacted, or how it's obvious that this isn't the full release. There's more to this. And although it's important to take note of what we already have, they've only given us enough to comb through as busy work. Knowing that, where does it leave us? We got a dead man, his wife in prison, and a million unanswered questions, and no justice served. What's crazy is that this is only the tip of the iceberg. The extent of Epstein's network goes far beyond A-list celebrities and Hollywood publicists. There were more billionaires than just Lex Wessner as well. I think that although not all of the intricate details are there yet, it's enough to confirm that there's a world that exists behind the curtains where money, influence, and power supersede the law.
And this is a topic that I've been diving into now for the past 5 months here on the channel. We have hundreds of videos exposing things of the Epstein files, interviews, and more. You can check out the entire playlist right here. I encourage you to scroll through and see what interests you, and I'll see you in whatever video you choose over there.